I am a firm believer that climbing gyms are undervalued in comparison to something like a membership to a CrossFit gym.
The main problem is that people don't understand why a climbing gym should cost that much.
Good advice for anybody that's like putting together holds order now. Try not to pigeonhole yourself into the color of holds determining the difficulty. We're not competing for people's attention between the two gyms or their money between the two gyms. We're competing against everything else that people have. They're very busy, very full lives.
Welcome to the Climbing Gym Growth Podcast, where we share stories and strategies from climbing gym owners and operators to help you grow your community and business. Today, I'm joined by Parker Sims from Gravity Bear in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah, good to be here.
Awesome. So I'm excited to have you here. Let's just start off with your backstory. How'd you get into climbing? How'd you get into the climbing industry?
First, I lived in a little town called Cleveland in Tennessee. It's right outside Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I didn't grow up there necessarily, but I was there for a few years, my younger teenager years. And in the little downtown there was a old school four-sided tower that they had built, like a plywood tower. It was maybe 20 feet. I don't know. It's hard to say how tall it was nowadays, but it's probably like 20 feet. And it looked really cool. It was basically just a vertical wall, had some almost permanent climbing holds on there. You'd get to the top and you'd be able to rappel down. And I thought it was fun. It looked fun. I got into it. I bought a harness and I also bought a pair of shoes, and then it was spotty. It was off and on. Growing up, I've lived in a lot of different places, and admittedly, I've lived in a lot of places that either didn't have outdoor climbing or I didn't know about it, or there was no gyms in the area. And so my relationship with climbing has very much been anytime that I do know of outdoor climbing in the area or do know of a gym, I try to frequent it. And so, like I was telling you earlier, that I've lived all over the world. I say all over. I've lived in Europe and then North America. So it's not really all over the world, but I spent a lot of time in a lot of different places. And when I find a gym, I like to go there, and you can usually find a very similar community regardless of the gym you go to. Obviously, languages are different and every gym operates a little differently. Some of them are bigger, smaller, so on and so forth, but you can typically find a pretty consistent community and experience. Fast forward many years, and I just exited the military in 2021 and moved here to Tulsa and became a member of the only climbing gym that they have here, and realized that there was this opening, this demand for something more. And that's kind of where my experience into the industry began, because I've never worked in a gym. I've never been a setter. I've never done any kind of anything other than just be a member. So,
Well, let's talk about that demand. So how did you know that there was a demand? Was the gym just packed every single night?
yeah. Anytime I would go there, yes. And then there were things that the facility had, or I guess didn't have, that I've seen in other gyms. And it got the gears turning a little bit on, like, okay, we're busy. There's actually some things we could fix. It is a full service gym, so they have ropes.
Okay.
And as you know, full service gyms and bouldering gyms are very different in just vibe and experience. And that's basically where like the seed came from. And then upon further investigation and market research, and for quite a few months there, it was about convincing myself that it was a good idea before trying to convince anybody else that it would be a good idea. So yeah, it just kept kind of reinforcing itself.
Yeah, what's the population of Tulsa?
So the most current census data is that there's 1 million people
Oh,
in the Tulsa area.
wow.
Yeah.
So is that within like
Yeah.
30 minutes of like downtown, essentially?
Yeah, there's more than 1 million people within a 30-minute. I was using 20 minutes.
Yeah. And there was only one climbing gym.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. We'll come back to that. I think that's really interesting. Let's get some more context about your gym. So when did you open?
Sure.
what kind of climbing do you offer, and what's the size of your facility, total facility size and climbing square footage?
Yeah. So we opened August 2nd was our grand opening of
Cool.
2025.
Great.
We're a traditional bouldering gym. I like to consider us like a generation four or a fourth generation bouldering gym. So we do have a coffee shop. There's a co-working space. We've got
Cool.
Wi-Fi. Then the climbing is so our building is 7,800 square feet, so just a little less than 8,000 square feet, and we have 3,200 square feet of climbable surface,
That's good.
15-foot walls.
Great. Pack it in there.
Yeah, but honestly, if you visit, you'll
It feels
see that
good.
it feels wide open.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome that you have a coffee shop too. That's great. You made space for that.
Hmm.
Cool. And all right, so let's talk about the name Gravity Bear. Where did that come
Yeah.
from? Is this you have like sort of a constellation logo going on? It sounds
A
like
little bit. Yeah, actually you
Ursa
can see it in my
Major.
shirt.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I like it.
So with anything, naming this thing was a challenge because you look at all the climbing gyms out there. I mean, there's a lot of different names, but a lot of them some kind of reference to outdoors, something or other, like granite or something like that, right? And
Or
granite is an
rock in the
example, or
name.
the cliffs, or yeah, block this, block
Or
that, rock
vertical
this,
something.
Yeah, right, vertical. So when you hear like one of those quintessential names, you can hear that and you're like, that's probably a climbing gym.
Yep.
um I just had a placeholder, so I just had Tulsa Bouldering Club was like kind of playing off of bouldering project a little bit
Hmm.
and saying like I just put a placeholder, right?
Sure.
And obviously that sounds far too sterile and bland and boring, and it was not going to be the case.
Hmm.
So then we started coming up with ideas, and I still have the list of all the names that we were coming up with, because it was just like anytime something would pop into my head, I would just put it on a list. And some of the advice that I'd gotten early on was like, try to go with one name, one word.
Hmm.
When you see new companies, like Movement is a classic example, right?
Yep.
Movement or Momentum, Crux, another single word gym.
I'm actually curious about that. What is the advantage of the single word?
I don't know, the advice that I had gotten. I guess it was just like easier to write. It was
Yeah. Well, you see a lot
just
of companies doing
more
that, like Amazon or Apple. And Dunkin' Donuts around here on the East Coast is now just Dunkin', you know?
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's just like streamlining it, making it easier.
Okay.
I definitely came up with a bunch of names, but there was one that it literally just popped into my head, and it was Gravity Bear.
Hmm.
And it's like, where in the world does this come from? But okay, we
Yeah.
threw it in the list, whatever. And it's funny because it went all against all the things that, like, of the references that I had, like I just rattled off a handful of names there that were like you quintessential climbing gym names. And and the advice of going with one word, it went against both of those. So after we had a list of maybe 50 plus names, we had to dwindle it down to 10, and Gravity Bear was still in there. Then it dwindled down even more to like five, and friends and family kind of just like getting people's opinions and, what do you guys think about these names? And it's crazy that Gravity Bear just started like rising to the top, and we came down to the top three, and it was in the runnings for that. And you know, I'm really happy that we went with this name, because it had built-in branding like from the get-go. We just had to discover it, and I think that's like
Mm,
the best thing,
that's
that
cool.
it was almost like a little voice in my head that whispered it, and then as it developed, we were discovering more and more about that brand and what it means, and it's developed into something pretty special. And now when you hear Gravity Bear, it doesn't necessarily scream climbing gym,
Sure.
so but it stands out, and it
Yes,
has the built-in brand. So,
definitely.
um, so yeah,
And it sounds nice, Gravity Bear. Just easy to say. I like it. And I think having that unique angle in the climbing industry is really helpful, right? I think it's nice having something that, like you said, has its own kind of built-in branding, right? Like
yeah,
you all kind of have this space theme going on with some of your Instagram posts, and
yeah,
obviously like the constellation logo and gravity fits with climbing really well. So
yeah,
the combination of all those things, I agree, it totally makes a lot of sense.
yeah. And actually, the way I describe it is, we've discovered this, right?
Hmm.
The gravity is something that we're all working against when we climb.
Hmm.
It's universal. Like, gravity is universal, at least on planet Earth. We all deal with the
At least
same
for
gravity.
now. Yeah.
At least for now. Yep. And the way that it affects you, it may be a little different than the way that it affects me.
Mm.
And so it's not only something that unites us, but it's also a very unique experience with gravity. And then bears, the way I like to say it is that I just love bears, you know. But at the same time, they do stand for courage and strength.
Hmm.
They're ferocious at times, but also like very compassionate
Hmm.
creatures. So there's this like, you know how powerful a bear is, but at the same time, you've got teddy bears, you know, so they're like both like adorable and, you know, respect it from a distance kind of
Totally.
thing. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
there's a lot of duality built into it. So it just works really well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then, so tell me about the backstory of the gym. How many owners are there? How did you meet? And how did you decide to open the gym?
As far as like the legal entity of Gravity Bear LLC, there are 6 individual owners, 5 of which are completely silent
Mhm.
and are just on paper.
Okay.
So I would be considered the only owner,
Okay.
for all intents and purposes.
Gotcha. Okay. So looking back on the opening process, so you've been open for how many months now? Let's see. Can I do math? It's been
3.
3 months. Okay. Um,
Yeah.
so looking back on that, what is sort of the biggest surprise or lesson that you learned during that process?
So this project was based entirely on projections, and projections are just that. There's no actual concrete evidence that it is going to be what it is. So I've had to come to the realization that expectations are are a place to start, and projections are a place to start, but in reality, like, we had to have something.
Mhm.
So setting an expectation on like what I hope is going to happen has given me confidence to take the next step, right? Like, we expect this to happen, so I take the next step. But as the project is unfolding, it is not unfolding in a way that's aligning perfectly
Right.
with our expectations. And so constantly staying flexible, having to stay flexible and reevaluate our expectations along the way has been probably the biggest surprise.
Yeah.
Like, this is my first venture. I have zero experience in entrepreneurship or in starting a business of any sort. And so I think that that's a lesson that entrepreneurs just know right from the get-go. And I'm sure that you know this starting the podcast, like, you had some expectations, you had to lay some sort of foundation to start. But as time goes on, those expectations have to be
Is there something
reevaluated.
that was like a pretty big departure from what you expected?
So I think on the positive side, we've had far more people than I thought come into the gym.
Mhm.
Our grand opening was incredible. We also hosted a USA climbing youth bouldering competition already. And
Nice.
I was kind of blown away at the way that people showed up, how many people we fit in the gym. So on that end, I've exceeded my expectations. But on the other side, Um, we don't have as many members as I expected there to be.
Yeah.
So that's probably like the thing that's keeping me up the most at night.
Sure.
Another big one is that we're all like the center of our own universe, right? So in my mind, I've dedicated like a little over 2 years of my life to this thing that is all encompassing. It started as an idea, and it's you ever see Venom? You know, the movie, the superhero movie Venom.
I have
You know,
not.
when you
Although
get
I
the
loved Venom
okay.
as a kid. I was really into that
Oh,
character,
okay.
but I didn't see the new movie. Yeah.
So you know how the symbiote, like, it's like a little thing, it gets on you and then it
Mhm.
takes
Yep.
over. Okay, so you understand the concept. Like, that's exactly what this project was for me. I mean, it was like an idea that then like consumed me, you know, and it's been my entire life and practical identity for the last 2 years. And so from my perspective, this is the biggest deal ever. And so I expected that like we would open the I say that I expected this. Obviously, I know in reality things are not this way, but almost I expected like to open the doors, and we would just be flooded with people that also feel exactly as I do, that this is like the biggest deal ever.
Totally. Yep.
And now what I realize is we are competing for people's attention
Hmm.
and their time, and time is the most valuable asset we have. And we're very fortunate for the people and the time that we do get from our members and the people that come in and our guests. And I realize that this is not the biggest deal to many, many, many other people. It's
Right.
just another thing,
Hmm.
right? And so that's been a hard pill to swallow, right? That like something that is a huge deal to
For
me
you,
because
yeah.
I've dedicated my life to it. I'm having to realize that that's not the case for, like
Yeah.
I said, there's a million people in Tulsa, right? So like
Yeah.
how in the world is are 10,000 of them not feeling the same way I do? Because they've
Yeah.
got individual experiences in their lives and everybody's super busy. Like something I realized is that we all I have an analogy of like a plate or like a pizza,
Hmm.
right? And like everybody is full. You're
Hmm.
like your life is a full life. Like you work, you have hobbies, you have friends, you try to sleep as much, you have like all these things that you do with your time. And for us to come in and say, look how awesome our new bouldering gym is, like give me a sliver of that time, is a big ask.
Hmm.
Uh and bigger than I expected it to be.
Oh, I want to give the listener some context. You also have a full-time job on top of being the key owner of this climbing gym. So I want everyone to know that you're doing this as a side project, and which is just like mind-blowing to me, that you're putting this much time and
Yeah.
effort into that on top of doing another job. Um, I'm
Yeah.
gonna just ask a quick question. How do you balance your time?
Well, I do a lot of things simultaneously, to
Okay.
be honest. So up until we opened, I was the only one making any moves or any decision. Well, up until like a few months before we opened, I was the only one like pushing the project forward. I was the one that came up with the plan. I coordinated with our bank. I coordinated with like our lawyers and did all of our legal stuff
Hmm.
and coordinated with a design company to create the logo and do all that. And then once we started construction, I wasn't the GC. I was the project manager, so I
Hmm.
was working with the GC and keeping the project
Wow.
on track. And so I I was basically like I had my laptop to do my day job and in the construction site. And then the way I say it is like okay, so go back to the pie analogy, right? Like we sleep, we eat, we have our day job or however we're spending most of our waking hours, our productive hours, and then you have time for your hobbies, and then you have maybe some other side things going on. Well, I basically traded all of the non-essential to life force time for this. So I say that this is like my mornings, nights, and weekends
Right.
up until we open. So I would do what I had to in the morning before my day job started, and then do my day job and allocate enough time to that. And then when my day job ended, I would just start this over until I needed to like eat or sleep, and then start it all over again. So really that's it. I didn't for a long time do anything like fun. Like I wasn't
Right.
doing any hobbies. It was literally just
You
I
can.
would do this and then I would work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
That's
it wasn't my
incredible.
day job. I
Yep.
think that like had I said, okay, I'm gonna quit my day job and focus on this, I
Right.
would have been able to keep my hobbies and been able to go out and do other things and maybe go climb outside or mountain bike or I've got a lot of different interests, but I've traded all of those
Wow.
for this.
That's incredible. Well,
Yeah.
kudos to you. That's very
So
impressive. And
thank
so
you.
now that you're open, what does your staffing look like? So to take out some of that load off of your shoulders, do you have some
Yeah.
managers? What does that look like?
Yep. Yep. So I have a manager. She's full time and she comes from the other climbing gym. And
Hmm.
then I have a head setter.
Hmm.
And then I have an additional setter that's part time. So I have two full time employees, the gym manager and the route setter, head route setter.
Okay.
And then we've got an additional setter who's part time. He comes in twice a week. And
Hmm.
then we have 7 front desk staff
Hmm.
that pull all the front
Oh, wow.
desk shifts.
Okay. So you got a big crew.
So yeah, I think with myself included, we're at 11,
Hmm.
7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. And then the silent partner that does marketing, I guess would be considered 11. So
And do you work front desk yourself?
No.
Okay. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense. You don't have time for that.
I am. Yeah. Now I don't. I'm not on the schedule,
Mm,
but I do help wherever I can. So, like I said, the facility itself, we have a coffee shop, we have a co-working space. So I work remote as a software engineer.
mhm.
Most of the time, I can do that job from the gym.
Nice.
And I would hope that other people do their jobs from the gym too, like use our free Wi-Fi and grab a coffee and do some of the work, like I've been doing.
Yep.
And so while I'm there, if somebody needs to step away and you know, go grab a bite to eat or go to the bathroom or just do rounds in the gym, then I can step in and check somebody in. You know, we've all had to go through training to become baristas. So like I had no idea about any kind of espresso drinks. And now, you know, we've got an espresso machine and I can go back there and make a
That's awesome.
latte or cortado if you want. So
Wow, you have a
it's
wide
very
skill
much
set.
ad hoc.
Nice. And
Yeah.
and you know how to use
Yeah.
you guys use RGP for your POS or
No, we use Capitan.
okay. And you can go in there, you know how to use that. You can process sales and
Oh
everything.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jack of all
Well,
trades.
We have Square as like
Yeah.
POS side of things
Okay.
for anything that's non-reoccurring. And then we have Capitan with a Stripe reader for anything reoccurring.
Cool.
And then you can also do day pass and stuff, but you just can't do like retail or our cafe from
Got it.
Capitan. Yeah, so we have
Okay.
two
So
different
I was
ones.
looking at your Instagram and you have a pretty crazy hold selection. It looks really good. You got some like really big
Thank you.
fiberglass, some cool macros
Yes.
and everything going on. How did you put together that opening hold order?
Dude, I did not.
Okay.
Um, so he our head setter, I didn't mention their names and I should have, right? So my gym manager, she's incredible. Her name's Chandler.
Hmm.
And my head setter, on the other hand, he is phenomenal. And his name's Armin Evanesian.
Hmm.
And he's an incredible setter. And for the 4 months ish before we opened, we were working together on putting together the holds order.
Okay.
So he did all that. We started with a vision of seeing the current state of climbing and then the future state of climbing, or maybe like our own experiences of climbing gyms and then the future state of climbing and competition climbing and
Mhm.
seeing that I have since learned this. Let me see if I can rattle them off, right? So
Okay.
we've got 4 categories of movement. We've got power,
Mhm.
balance. Those are like traditional rock climbing movements.
Sure.
And then there's Cordo
Hmm.
and electric are
Hmm.
the 4 kind of main categories now.
Yeah.
And coordination and electric are newer, kind of more comp style movements. And we didn't want to be one or the other, like
Hmm.
only traditional, you know, old school OG rock climbing movements, power and balance. And we also didn't want to be only coordination and electric moves where it's all comp style stuff. So it was like trying to find a blend between the two,
Yep.
knowing that also at every level of ability and difficulty, we want to have fun movement. That's a progression. And so you'll see in our gym that you can get on something that we consider in our circuit, like our white circuit, which is like 0 to 2. You'll have technical footwork or kind of maybe coordination moves or sometimes an electric move that's still in that V0 V1 category, and then that translates all the way up to our black circuit, which is V10 plus, and you'll see some of the same movements across the entire spectrum of our difficulty range. So with that vision in mind, that's where we started. Like, how do we accomplish that?
Hmm.
What we can't do is just go and buy a batch of holds and hope we get good stuff, right?
Okay.
And we can't just throw it together and think that it's going to work.
Hmm.
So we have a circuit system. We decided that that was the kind of the future
So you're doing
of
circuits by color,
grading.
it sounds like.
Yeah, circuits by color. And what we noticed though, and this is good advice for anybody that's like putting together a holds order now, is that try not to pigeonhole yourself into the color of holds determining the difficulty.
Okay.
That you can still use a color, and we use something from I think it's cornerstone. We use these little like arrows, and they are a certain color. The arrows are a color. And so that determines the difficulty. The color of the hold does not.
Okay.
So we have white holds, for instance, in any range of
Okay.
difficulty.
I see. Okay. So you use a symbol, a colored symbol to determine the circuit. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Got it. That does free you up. I feel like if you do circuits purely by color of hold, then you have to have a lot of holds to make that happen, to create enough variety in
Yep.
each color. So it sounds like that your solve for that was to do a symbol. Okay, cool. Great.
Yeah. And then the other thing is we needed to know like how many colors we were going to have, how many ranges we were going to have. We started out with 8. We went down to 7, then we went down to 6,
Okay.
knowing that we had a budget and we knew how many holds we'd need in each color, because each color has its own style.
I see.
So there's no repeat holds. So we don't have the same hold in 2
interesting.
different colors.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And everything was really intentionally picked. And so like we said, it took 4 months, and it was a lot of work to determine which colors. The other thing is we took into consideration people that are colorblind.
Mhm.
So we don't have red holds. We don't have orange holds. We went with yellow instead of orange, and we have pink instead of red. We don't have brown or gray. We have white and black. So that was another thing too, is like picking the color was really, that was really intentional. We went kind of back and forth on what colors we were going to choose.
Okay. Wait, sorry, you said you had how many colors?
Let me hold on.
How many colors of holds?
We've got,
yeah,
6.
6
White,
colors of holds. Okay, got it. Cool.
White, yellow, green, blue, black, and
Pink.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you have 6 ranges of circuits.
Yeah.
Got it.
Which
okay,
are
cool.
Ironically, the same colors.
So how many climbs do you have in your facility at any given time?
Let me correct myself. I think we have 7 colors.
7,
actually, because we do have purple.
Okay, cool.
We have purple as well.
Okay.
We have 8 zones, and just generally speaking, we have 10 routes per zone. Some of them have more, so we have anywhere between 80 and 85 boulders up at any given time.
Cool. And do you feel limited by the number of colors that you have? Does that prevent you from setting more climbs because colors will be too close to each other?
No.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, 7 seems good.
Yeah.
I was gonna say 6 is probably hard. But yeah,
and I think that's
seems
where
like,
it was. It was like,
yeah.
It was like, we can't have 10 colors.
Right.
And then we bring it down, like it's almost like bracketing. Because I said 6, but actually we do have 7, because we did bring it down to 6, and it's like, no, these colors would be too close together.
Exactly.
Where you'd have 2 white climbs or 2 green climbs too close
Yes.
together. So we bumped it up to 7. That still let us have the whole budget didn't inflate. We had enough holds in each color. It was almost like finding that really perfect point.
Yeah.
Right. That there's not really any excess.
And then what was that budget, if you don't mind me asking, for holds?
We spent about $120K.
Yeah. Fiberglass is expensive. That's crazy.
Yeah. And we have a variety of brands too. It was not all from like one company. I know some gyms, it's very tempting to get your you can save a lot of money by bulk ordering.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if you order from one company, I think that would be enticing,
Right.
especially if you're got a limited budget.
Yeah.
But we definitely went across the spectrum.
Nice. That's great. And it makes sense with your, like, you really want to focus on kind of modern styles too. So having that variety and being able to provide something different, I think is really nice, and probably helps you differentiate from the other gym, I imagine.
Yeah. I think we're seeing a lot of changes because we exist now just in the local community. So I think people are seeing that and appreciating what we're bringing to the table.
Cool.
So
let's talk about membership. You were saying that you did not hit the opening goal for your membership numbers. So what was your goal, and kind of where did you land, and what do you think was, what was the miss, I guess?
Okay. So our projections and everything, I wanted 200 members. I looked at my anticipated or expected membership base from the other gym. They're a lot bigger. And I figured if I could get like 10% of their membership base. So I estimated that they had 2,000 members.
Mhm.
And so I was like, 200 is a good starting point.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that when you build something off of totally arbitrary number, like
Yeah.
why 200? I don't know. It's just like the number that I was like, that's seems good.
Right. It
Like
seems
seems like a good
reasonable if
number.
there's a million people, right? You're like, I could get 200
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I based everything off of that. I think
Mhm.
before our grand opening, we had like 75.
Mhm.
So through our grand opening, we hit 100-ish.
Okay.
We're at like 165 or 170 now.
Mhm.
So we've and basically in the first month, we gained maybe 100 members, and then it's kind of like evening out there where people are leaving or whatever, people are canceling their membership, and we're gaining the same amount. So we've kind
Sure.
of like hit a little bit of a plateau here. That's
Yeah.
something that I'm currently trying to work through,
Let's
like
talk
how
about that
we
real
do
quick.
this.
So
Yeah.
what is your churn percent?
So it's hard because like our CRM talks about like 90-day churn. Like I was looking for this
Oh, it's
number, and
90-day. Okay.
it's a 90-day churn rate. And right now we haven't hit 90. We haven't had members that have had a membership for 90 days yet.
Oh, interesting. So how many people
So
cancel per month?
I think we've had maybe like a handful, like 5.
Okay. Yeah. So you're at like 5% or
Yeah.
something, less than 5%. Okay. Below 5%, I think is kind of pretty standard. So that means then you're like kind of backfilling those people with 5 new members every month. And that's kind of been
Yeah.
the pace for the past couple months, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just generally speaking. Yeah.
And so I guess I'm curious, kind of leading up to opening, what kind of marketing methods were you using? And I guess what would you do differently in retrospect?
So it was all organic social media.
Did you
We
boost any
we
posts or
did
anything that, or do you put any paid into it?
I'm not sure that we did.
Okay.
I I can't remember exactly, but I'd say like early on, I would say definitely we should have. If we didn't, I can't remember if we did. Like if we did, it was like a small
Small
amount.
amount. Okay.
Start small.
Yeah.
There's a philosophy, right? That like it doesn't make sense to boost a reel, for instance, or a post that's not doing very well.
Sure. Yeah.
You're just throwing money at something that's like not attractive or so
Right. It's not
so
tested
I
yet.
felt
Yep.
like
Mhm.
yeah. So
Right.
I felt like, especially when it comes to social media, that we were growing. Like our membership, we had. I honestly, I could look back. I think we had probably by the time we opened, we had maybe like 1,500 followers on
Oh, that's
Instagram.
big. Yeah.
So yeah, I felt like again, like our goal of having 200 by the time we opened was like
Mhm.
attainable. Especially with 1,500 people following us on social media. But
Yep.
it's a lot easier to follow somebody on social media than to buy a recurring membership from them.
Totally.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So in retrospect, is there like community outreach things or any of those kind of ideas that you kind of look
Yeah,
back
I
on?
think first and foremost, I would not recommend doing this as a side gig. I would absolutely like it, however you
Okay.
can,
Yeah.
be able to dedicate your working and
That's good advice.
your productive hours of your day, right? And try not to spread yourself too thin. I could have done a lot more outreach, and I could have done a lot more throughout the day. I just didn't have the time,
That makes
and
sense.
didn't really have a team of people, right? It was just me and like 2 other people at any given time. So,
Totally.
and maybe sometimes less. So
Right.
I think that too, we looked at different marketing strategies. Something that we're not doing is any kind of like billboard or like TV ads or anything like
Yeah. Yeah.
that. We did founding membership. Now I remember it. We did founding membership ads on Facebook.
Okay.
And we still run Facebook ads. We still do use the Meta ad manager, and we were running ads for our founding memberships.
Okay.
So we were doing that. It's interesting because the metrics that you see it seems like we're reaching a lot of people. It seems like
Yeah.
that it's working. Yet what we've learned recently is like, just because you reach a certain number of people
Yes.
doesn't mean that certain number of people care. And so really it's like finding the people that care about it, and then it's determining how much money did I spend pushing this thing out, and how much money did it bring in,
Exactly.
and finding that ratio. And we're learning
Yeah.
the analytics and the
Do you,
process of,
do you
yeah.
happen to know any of those numbers, like what the conversion percent was from click through to membership purchase, or any of like the return on ad spend numbers or anything like that? Sorry,
Not from
sorry,
the
I'm
early,
grilling you here.
yeah, not from the early
Okay.
stuff that we
Okay.
were doing.
Do you know how much you spend on a monthly basis on ads, perchance?
Yeah, so we have just a small $500 a month
Okay.
budget for that.
That seems to be pretty common.
Okay.
And do you know how many like first time visitors that are coming in on a monthly
Yeah,
basis?
yeah. I just looked this up. So,
Perfect.
the first month was our biggest month. Obviously, we had like 800 first-time visitors because we were brand new,
Wow.
right? But it has since dropped, and so the second and third month we were open, September and October, we had about 350 new like first-time visitors.
It's a lot of people coming through the facility. So I'm curious about the market. So there's an existing gym. How long is it's called Climb Tulsa, I think, right?
Yeah, Climb Tulsa.
How
Yeah.
long have they been open for?
So they opened that facility that they're in 2017.
Oh, okay, so relatively
So
new.
8 years.
Okay. And so was there an existing kind of climbing scene before that gym opened?
There was a gym before that
Oh,
too,
okay.
an old school. It was called New Heights,
Mm.
and everybody loved that gym. And when the current owners of Climb Tulsa bought New Heights, they closed that facility down when they opened this new one,
Mm-hmm.
and it really modernized the gym scene in
Mm-hmm.
Tulsa. New Heights was a very everybody loved it, and it was the OG kind of like Gen 1 holds like they converted an old scuba diving swimming pool
Oh,
into a climbing gym.
wow.
Yeah.
That's
So,
cool. How tall is a
yeah.
scuba diving facility normally?
Yeah, I never went in there. So I've asked
Interesting.
a lot of people to send me the pictures and stuff because
Yeah.
I would love to blow up old pictures of the climbing gym and like put them on our wall as like posters or whatever.
That's cool.
So I would love to see, but I'm thinking it was probably like 20, 25, 30
Okay.
feet maybe in the
Cool.
deep end.
Okay, so climbing gyms have been around in the market for a little while. So what kind of percentage of people do you feel like know about rock climbing in the Tulsa area? Is it like something that people talk about, or is it still like a relatively niche
I
thing?
think, yeah, I think it's still a relatively niche thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm seeing that we've got so many people that their first time climbing. I would say half of our members, their first time climbing ever is in our gym.
Well, that's good
Yeah.
that you're pulling new people into the sport. What I've noticed with markets with existing gyms is that a lot of the members of that previous gym are pretty loyal. You know, especially if it's a small
Yeah.
market where there's only one gym like that, and they're like, "We love
Yeah.
Climb Tulsa," you know. And so, like, some
Mm.
ways it's almost harder to pull members because they have this kind of affinity towards them. So that kind of makes sense that
Yeah.
you're essentially creating new climbers is sort of
Yeah.
what's happening.
A small sliver of people that see and saw the issues that we solve,
Mhm.
and they appreciate that. And they're like, yes, this is where I'm going. Right. I think we've captured those people. Then there's a lot of people like Tulsa. There's hardly any sport climbing outdoors here. Most of the outdoor climbing is bouldering,
Oh, cool.
but most climbers climb indoors. Like there's it's
Yep.
a smaller percentage of people who consider themselves a climber that actually climb outside.
Yep.
And so those people call themselves climbers that started climbing in Tulsa, started climbing at a gym that's full service that has ropes.
Yeah.
So most people consider themselves a rope climber and would see a bouldering gym as not offering
Right.
all that a full service gym does.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, I noticed online that you have a 2-week trial membership that you're running. I imagine that's
Oh
sort
yeah.
of to help convince those first time visitors to your facility to try out the membership. How has
Yeah.
that been going for you?
Well, we just started that, so we're 6 days in.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
Cool.
yeah, so we just started in November. And this time we've learned that you have to have multiple touch points on letting somebody know that this exists. So we have it on our Instagram. I pinned it on our Instagram. We have it on our website. We put it on our homepage. We put it on our pricing
Hmm.
page. If you go to another post, it's like all of the November things we've got going on. It's in our promos there, and it's also in our links on our Instagram. Like you can see, you can access it, and then training our front desk staff to let them know that this is an option that exists. It's a little bit more than a day pass, and then you be able to come in for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So hoping that it works. It seems like a lot of gyms are doing something similar. It's bridging the gap between like a day pass and a full blown membership, because getting somebody to come in, because at this point it feels like the second and third, and I mean you
Right.
could come in every single day, so every time is basically free to that person, and they realize that this is something that they want to do.
Yeah, and sometimes the hardest thing is getting them to come in for their second visit. So I think
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense to try to encourage them to explore the facility and everything you have to offer. Do you have any other kind of things that you're trying out to help bring people into the gym, convert them to membership, maybe convert them into climbers?
We do a free climbing day every month, once a
Oh,
month.
cool.
It's we call it First Friday.
Hmm.
So actually tomorrow is the first Friday of November,
Okay.
and it's free to climb, and we try to throw some sort of event. Last month we had a DJ come in
Cool.
and just kind of throw a little bit of a party and have people come in and experience the community, and we see a lot of first timers come experience the gym that way. We also like have intro to bouldering classes
Hmm.
twice a week on Wednesdays and Fridays. What we feel and kind of notice is that if you can make somebody feel like you care and reduce the barrier to, because there's an
Yeah,
intimidation factor,
100%.
especially for new climbers. So trying to enroll people into that class, we've seen people come in for that class and become a member
Yeah,
because they got a little bit of instruction from a friendly staff member, and they now know somebody, and they feel more confident that they can in fact do this, and
right.
it's not for somebody else that may be stronger or have done this longer, like
Yeah.
reducing that barrier.
And it's also
Yeah.
like a lot of people's reference is like free solo. And so they're like, oh, wow, this is intimidating. Like, this is not
Yeah.
for me. I'm going to try it out. I'm probably going to really suck. And then you're being like, hey,
Yeah.
maybe you're not as bad as you think. And maybe the sport's not as crazy as you think it is.
Right. Yeah.
That's cool. Are you getting a lot of people signing up for that class?
Admittedly, we'd like more people to
Yeah.
sign up.
Yeah.
We've had a handful, but our classes are up to 4, and we're
Hmm.
rarely full. It's just, again, I think that's another thing that you just got to get the word out.
Okay. Great. Um, I saw that you have members only hours. And is that just like a
Yeah.
perk that you wanted to put together for your members, or is that like a space conserving tactic?
No, it's not. So our initial concept, and still is our concept, is to be 24/7.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Going through the process of finding an insurance policy was something that no insurance company was willing to insure.
Mm.
When basically the non-staffed hours, that having members in there during non-staffed hours before we're open a year. And I appreciate that actually. So like now that we've been open a month, like I can't imagine having been 24/7 this whole time and deal with the challenges that that would bring. Like
Hmm.
get a year under our belt, kind of work through a lot of those kinks, develop our systems, develop our processes, and then add this thing in later. A bunch of my initial kind of pitches of the gym was that we were going to be 24/7. And when our insurance policy came back that we weren't able to offer that, we found a consolation that we'll do members only hours in the morning.
Okay.
And so now we say that they're members only hours, but we don't turn anybody away
Mhm.
during those hours. Like if somebody comes in for a day pass,
Yeah,
we're
because you're
totally gonna
staffed
let them
still.
come
So
in.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And so, do you have all the infrastructure that you need to be 24
Hmm.
7? Oh, wow. Okay. So you have the
Yep,
doors and everything that's set up for that?
yeah, yeah.
Cool.
So we just need the insurance policy, and then we're able to turn it on.
I always wonder about this. Like,
Yeah.
what do you do with like retail? Do you like just trust that people won't take anything?
So our retail is kind of against the wall next to our cafe. We could do some kind of net thing that goes over it while we're not staffed. I think that would probably be the easiest thing, that just kind of like a barrier that says like don't touch this, but ultimately, like, everything's under surveillance, and
Yeah.
you know, these are our members. Like, we
Right.
know them personally. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah,
No, I hear you. I always thought that it'd be fun to have a vending machine with like chalk and chalk bags. If you
yeah.
had like a full 24/7, like barely staffed facility, just having a vending machine for everything.
Definitely wanted to do that with our cafe, like,
Uh,
snacks and stuff, is have them available. So we do have to find some way that you could self check out that stuff if you wanted to grab like a drink from the fridge.
Cool. Let's talk pricing. How did you decide on your membership prices?
Yeah, man, I am constantly thinking about this, to be honest. I am a firm believer that climbing gyms are undervalued in comparison to something like a membership to a CrossFit gym or a Pilates studio or a yoga studio. Sometimes climbing gyms are half or even less than
Right.
half the cost of something like that, with far more um, upfront cost than a small, like, Pilates studio, for instance.
Mhm.
So, granted, it's a different sport and it's a different clientele and it's a different, like, there's so many differences, but still, when it comes to how people, like, what people do for fitness and what people do for fun, what you're not going to find is a community really that comes out of a studio, like a Pilates studio or a CrossFit gym. Although there are communities from that, and you can
Yeah.
definitely identify as somebody that does that, right?
Hmm.
But I think that community events and just overall the community is far more important in a climbing gym.
Hmm.
And so I think that route setters are undervalued as well and should be compensated for their time, because it is a very strenuous, very hard, not only is it physically strenuous, but it's also a creative profession as well.
Hmm.
And so I I regard route setters very highly, and I realize that we wouldn't have an industry without route setters, and and it's it's a catch 22, man. Because, like,
Hmm.
on one hand, you have people that would actually that have in the past historically done this for free. Like, they
Right.
would just trade their time, get a membership out of it
Bunch
because
of
they
dirt
love to
bags.
do
Yep.
it, and yeah.
Hmm.
And the direction we're going, on the other hand, is like, this is a highly skilled profession.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to be able to pay the route setters what they're worth,
Yep.
and so we need to make the money from the community in order to afford that, right?
Totally.
And so that's basically my philosophy on where we ended. Now, then you look across the board and you see different climbing gyms and how much people are charging,
Hmm.
and they range everywhere from sometimes less than $50 a month all the way to $150 a month. So there's this
Yep.
huge spectrum. And I'm, you know, admittedly battling with, the question, like, did we set our price too high? It's because, like, the other gym is less than $70 a month.
Oh,
They're
wow.
full service,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
they're full service. I think that they're really undervalued. I think that they could
Yeah.
charge a lot more than they do, and they should charge more than they do. So I, through a lot of deliberation, decided, like, our membership price is $80.
Yeah.
And I want that to so we're more expensive than they are.
Sure. Yeah. And I've seen some of these small boutique bouldering gyms open, and they're against these kind of mega gyms, and they always price underneath. I think it's cool that you're doing that and you're kind of sticking to your guns.
It is, admittedly, it's a tough decision to continue to defend,
Hmm.
because even this morning, like I say, it's my mornings, nights, and weekends, but it's actually my dreams too. Like, it keeps me up at night,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
wakes me up in the middle of the night, and it wakes me up in the morning, determining, like, how do I do this
Mhm.
and stick, because I think that we're worth that. I think the value is
Yeah.
there for sure.
I think that you are
Um,
too. And this kind of goes back to what you were saying in the beginning. It's like when you opened, you thought it was going to be obvious to people the value of
yeah,
what you're offering, but really they weren't even aware of who you were. And so
yeah,
I believe the same thing. Like a lot of times we're charging too little, but the main problem is that people don't understand why a climbing gym should cost that much. They don't have the context that we have into all the expenses and overhead that goes into it. And so I feel like if as a whole, like these boutique bouldering gyms that offer really high level route setting, like the better their staff gets at communicating what it is that they offer, the more that will translate and the more people will buy into it. I think it really comes
Mm,
down to kind of marketing and the way that we're talking about the gym when people come in, honestly.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's huge. And it's something that I'm learning, that it's showing people or communicating the value,
Yeah.
right? Because we have this thing, it's multifaceted, right? That we have this thing that in comparison to this other thing, smaller, but we're more expensive. And so there's that kind of relationship.
Yeah.
But then there's also like, regardless of that relationship, regardless of what somebody else values their business as and like their membership base as, there's also this like, what do we offer and
Yes.
how much is that worth, regardless of what other people are doing.
Hmm.
But at the same time, if somebody is a climber in Tulsa, for instance, or in any other city, and they come in and they're purely just going to say, I've got X number of dollars and I want to do something every couple times a week. Do I do it there or do I do it here?
Right.
They're cheaper. Maybe we go there.
Hmm.
Or maybe it's parameters, for say, right? That there's some people that just, they're not going to care about the other gym because we're downtown, we're a cool vibe, we've got a
Yes.
lot of cool, like, things going on, and they're not comparing us to the other gym. Like, they're just like what we have.
Yeah. It's a commoditization, right? And so a lot of people view gyms as commodities. They're like, oh, what's the
Yeah.
difference? Like, this one's cheaper. Like, I'm definitely going to go with this one. Like, whereas in reality, every gym is so different. It's very
Yeah.
rare that I go to another gym and I'm like, oh, this route setting is just like this other gym's route setting. Or like this layout is like
Yeah.
it. There are similarities, don't get me wrong. A lot of gyms offer the same kind of amenities and they do a lot of similar community events and things like that. There's a lot of imitation in that sense. But ultimately, the flavor of each gym is very different.
Yeah. Even then, we're not competing for people's attention between the two gyms or their money between the two gyms. We're competing against everything else that people have. They're
Right.
very busy, very full lives. We're competing not only against all of those other commodities and other fitness areas, but also like all the restaurants that people go to and all the bars that they go to and
Yeah.
all the places that they go outdoors to do the certain things, because it's ultimately, we're looking for people to spend some of their time, which is very finite,
Yes.
with us versus somewhere else.
Yeah. Great. Well, I have so many more questions for you, but I'm gonna kind of cut to the end here. It's been a great conversation. I love getting derailed and talking about these other things. So what's the big dream for the gym? Where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I would love to have a full membership base and be able to offer an incredible experience to more and more people, and be a community that supports one another and is an advocate for this industry and this sport, but also for translating that to outdoors and become good stewards of Mother Nature. And I think that's something that's really important, that we have this connection to the rock here. That's we're pulling on plastic in a gym, but you pull on granite or sandstone outside, and it's we got to make sure we protect it. So definitely that. Also, being a place that people find a community and find their chosen family, because that's hard to find these days in a
Yeah.
in a healthy environment.
Yeah.
So I'd love to expand, love to have multiple locations. So I think that's important as well, to be accessible to more people, um, that our values are felt and appreciated, and people want to experience that.
That's great. Well, it seems like you're doing a great job. So I believe in you, and I think we're going to see good things in the future. What do you have one piece of advice for prospective gym owners?
Yeah, maybe it's like multiple
Go for it.
faceted.
Yeah.
So the military has a term, and I've stolen it and I use it every day, but a plan is a place to deviate from.
Hmm.
So come up with a plan. It's essential to create a plan. You got to have a plan,
Mhm.
but know that sticking to that plan is not the most important thing. The most important thing is creating it. Then you have a point that you can deviate from. Without creating the plan, you don't know where you're going to start. But you create the plan and then you go. And like I said at the beginning of the podcast, that staying flexible. That's the other thing, is flexibility, especially early on. Oh my gosh. I think like I said that word to myself, like stay flexible, like the most, and when it comes to everything from finding a building to dealing with contractors to finding a bank or finding the money. And it's yeah, a plan is a place to deviate from,
I
and
love that.
it's important to create it and stay flexible.
Cool. So where can people go to find more about Gravity Bear?
We do a lot of our marketing through our social media and through our Instagram specifically. So our handle is at Climb Gravity Bear. And then our website does have most of the information, if not all the information that's pertinent to our business. So that's climbgravitybear.com. And yeah, those two places, or just come into the gym. We're downtown Tulsa.
Yeah, I want to check it out sometime. Well, thanks again for sharing your story and all your insights, and hopefully we'll chat again soon when you have multiple locations.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.